special Saturday playoff edition, Super Wildcard Weekend, and we've already got news to break because the Pittsburgh Steelers and Buffalo Bills game has been pushed to Monday afternoon, 4:30. So check your calendars, make sure that you don't have any work meetings because uh, the governor has decided that it's not safe for people to travel, and they're actually putting a travel ban in place in like the Western PA or PA and Western New York kind of region there. So all those Steelers fans that are going to the game, hopefully they're already in the thing. But if not, you have till about 9 o'clock tonight until they're going to start pulling people over. But we've still got lots of football to talk about.
There's a lot of football to talk about.
And we've had a lot of different types of things that have been going on. Lots of coaching changes. Literally the worst national championship that could have happened in national championship history. So glad the 14 playoff is over. Now we got a 12-team playoff. And maybe we'll start with Kalen sitting there in his Phillies hat and just share some of your emotions with us, Kalen, because I know that I told you Vrabel was going to get fired about 8 weeks ago, and then now it kindly actually happened, and you guys are interviewing basically Vrabel 2.0 and Pierce. So I'm curious on like your thoughts on all of this.
I like how you call your shot as if it was you that came up with the report that he was going to go somewhere or get canned.
Hey, we're just breaking news, man.
What's that? But
We're just breaking news.
my feelings are not happy about it. I don't care what flashy coach we get next. I think that Rich Eisen's experience, like when he saw that it happened, when Taylor Lewan saw that it happened, like everybody's reaction so far around the league has been the kind of the same. Like I don't know. At the same time, you did have a terrible last 2 years, but I've been saying this since John Robinson got fired. He's the one that put us in this position. How do you coach up what's really a not even I don't even know if you call it a Division two team in some regards because they had the most undrafted free agents playing in the league, right? Like it's just
Hey, they
it's
pulled one out against the Jags for us. So I mean, I'm grateful for what that action all led to. But I will say, after that win, I was pretty surprised knowing that like Vrabel wouldn't be back. I mean, even though I called the shot, I didn't actually expect it to happen, especially with all the other changes that have been happening like throughout the league too. But overall, this I mean, this is just like my feeling on it. This felt like he wanted Henry back. They weren't going to bring him back. He might have wanted a veteran quarterback or veteran players. I'm not sure what his feeling or relationship would be with your boy Billy Jeans there, but I think Ryan Tannehill proved himself as like a half decent starter against like a depleted Jags team. Um, it seemed like the team was going in a different direction, and whatever that GM that's in place now just didn't want him there.
well, so I'll clear that up real quick. So the GM. This is going to sound really weird, but the GM actually had no input or say on firing Vrabel. This was an Amy Adams Strunk call from the beginning, the owner, and from the report that came out from Diana Rossini from the Athletic, it sounds like after the loss to Houston was when this really kind of the straw broke the camel's back, and it was also the visit to New England. As silly as that may be, I don't know if you guys would let that fly. I know it was a bye week and everything, but you go to another team's Ring of Honor introduction for you during your bye week, and at the end of your speech, you say, celebrate what you have here. There's not a lot of places that are done correctly like here. I mean, you've only been in two NFL franchises, beside like as a coach kind of thing, uh, to experience what the other levels may be to a franchise and one of them was with Houston. So who's your shot being taken at there? But I'm not trying to draw straws here as to what he could have done, kind of thing. But from the sounds of it, the owner decided she's got a vision. She kept saying in her speech that she put out, and it sounds like it's the analytical road. We're playing Moneyball now, boys. Playing the San Francisco ball.
That's not going to work out well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they have a new stadium opening in what, 27?
Yeah, yeah.
So my guess is they try and rebuild over the next couple of years and get some momentum for like the 25, 26, 27 season and try and sell some booths or some whatever is going on. But I mean, you mentioned New England. And before we dive into the playoff games, because we will get into the playoff games, New England decided that it was time, whether it was mutual, whatever. I would assume, regardless of who decided, coming out and saying it's mutual, like that. I mean, the guy worked there for 25 years. It's what's going to happen. But this kind of seems like to me that maybe the Robert Kraft and Stephen Kraft want their franchise back, and they don't want Bill Belichick to have all the keys. And they might have offered him that to say, "You're not the GM anymore, but you're the coach." And he decided that that wasn't for him. But overall, I mean, I was surprised that you make a move like that. 22 great years and then 3 rough ones kind of makes you seem like maybe Brady was right.
Um, I think it is clear that Brady was the piece. I mean, he could have tapped
Yeah.
and flipped the team really quick. That was a 500 football team. I'm not going to say Belichick. Is Belichick the greatest coach of all time? I think he's one of them. He's definitely one of the greatest minds of all time. I'll put it
Yeah.
that way. He had some really good football players that bought in. And I think he had guys like, I'll use Mike Vrabel as an example, a guy that would do anything for the team who guys rallied around.
Right.
He had a quarterback that, till the day he retired, and his brain was still a 6th-round draft pick,
Right.
that guys rallied around.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And overall, franchises need to make these kind of moves. Like this is what happens. This is how the owners stay relevant. Um, I know that Robert Kraft is not a guy that I don't know. He's not Jerry Jones, but this move seems like maybe he wants to be. Like, does that make sense? Like he just wants to be the guy that's in the spotlight a little bit more, like the Jim Irsay and the
I just honestly think it was the right time.
yeah,
Mac Jones is at the end of his rookie deal, pretty much. I think it's clear if we get rid of Belichick, we don't have to stay with Mac Jones.
right,
It lets you go and draft whoever you want. You have a top draft pick. There's lots of talent there. We're not going to talk about that today, but like,
Yeah.
you have lots of weeks to analyze all that shit. But it's telling me Belichick wanted to stay with what was there, and Robert Kraft said no. And at the end of the day, the guy who signed the checks going to get his way.
right, right, exactly. And you know, I like there was lots of quarterback coaching carousels, and the Patriots had their guy lined up right away. Gerard Mayo's now their coach. But I think it's time because it's Super Wildcard weekend, and let's talk about the teams that are still involved in this thing. And you know, I want to send a big shout out to our friends over at Miller Lite for hooking us up with that beautiful LED sign on the wall. So I'd say that right now it is Miller time, and let's talk about a lovely game between the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans, and we'll kind of like filter our way through and see where this thing leads us. So, what is your overall sense on this game? Because I'll tell you, the Texans have been in quite a few playoff games over the last, call it, 8 years, right? Like they had their span. JJ Watt was there. I can't remember them actually going into a game with their starting quarterback. You know, like if we think back, like I feels like them and the Raiders are always snake bitten for quarterbacks when it gets to this point. And I can picture like Case Keenum being the starter of the Texans at one time.
Matt
And
Schaub
it
was
was,
there with Andre Johnson, was he not? I feel that they
but
had
I
him
don't
on
know if
there.
he played in the game. That's what I mean. Like I just kind of think that every time they rolled into one of these, it was a backup. So rolling into this thing with CJ Stroud against what was perceived as maybe a backup, which I don't know if you know this, but Joe Flacco actually has the ability to have the most wild card wins of all
He's
time.
5-0 right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so this would make him 6-0 in a wild card, which would pass
And
Brett Favre.
$250,000 richer.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that this is kind of a testament to like the Ben Roethlisbergers of the world that own that division for so long that Baltimore would have been in so many wild card games. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, what is your sense on this game? It seems like defense is going to be the key on this one.
Whoever stops the other team from scoring the most. I think it's going to be a shootout. Like, both these teams don't play cautious. Houston's going to throw the football. Cleveland was a running team. All of a sudden, Joe Flacco came in. Now they're just slinging the ball wherever he wants, and it's been working. So why would you stop?
Yeah,
Houston's defense is not great, so I think for Houston to win this game, they're going to have to score a lot of points. And I think I saw the over at 44.5, which is pretty high for a playoff game, especially outdoors in Cleveland. But is it in Cleveland this week?
No, it's in
they're-
Houston.
they're
It's in
good.
Houston, and that's what I was going to say. So, like, as a guy who saw the Houston when they were really good and got a couple, like, to see a few games in that division get played, that like stadium can get really loud when the team's good, and they're coming into this humming with a quarterback that's really really good. They got an offense that's fun to watch. It's just next man up. wide receiver goes down, like number one wide receiver goes down, next guy comes up. He goes down 2 weeks later, next wide receiver comes up. Dalton Schultz has gone there and decided to have a second coming of his career in the second half of the season. He was kind of invisible the first half of the season, but like even the defense has been playing better. And I'm biased, even though he left on a very rough term. But Tier Tart is a game changer when it comes to the run game. And I know that Cleveland has had to adjust. Doesn't necessarily have the strongest run game that they had through it when they expect with Nick Chubb being there. Sorry, but like they're very, very good on defense in Houston. They're very stout. They can stop the run and force you to throw the ball. And I don't know if I want to lean into Joe Flacco for 30 attempts in a playoff game in a dome.
Yeah, yeah, and like the dam's got to break at some point for Flacco, right? Like he's been really, really good, and I think the coaches have put him in like a good position to be successful. And obviously, he's not like a scrub, even though his last few years in the league, he really was a scrub.
Yeah.
You put good talent around him, but he's doing all this virtually with no run game, and I think that's kind of like the thing that's gonna really hurt Cleveland is if you can't run the ball.
You're not going to win the AFC.
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to probably even get past Houston. Honestly, like they're a little bit banged up at. I think they're outside linebackers. I think they're 3 deep on guys that are going to be out for this game, or at least like limited with even like Will Anderson, high ankle sprain. If you get 12 good snaps out of him, like is that enough?
You get 12 out of good snaps from him, like 7 of those may turn into real solid sacks. Like that kid is a freak. It's ridiculous. And I know that I have a horrible offensive line, so what I was seeing was kind of atrocious compared to everybody else. But yeah, the way that they maneuver that defensive line, it's the same crap that they had back when J.J. Watt was there. No person plays one position on that defensive line. It's crazy.
Yeah, and so do you think? I mean, I guess you're probably too biased to even make the decision. Like, do you think Houston or Cleveland?
I'm going into this. I think Houston has got nothing to lose, right? Like they're a team that had 4 wins last year? Or was it 2 wins? I can't even remember. But like they've got nothing to lose and everything to have fun with right now. Guys, get your experience in the playoffs because it's probably not going to be their last one over the next decade. So go and have some fun right now. Whereas Cleveland, stacked defense. Like we're talking about a defense we haven't seen this good since probably the Ravens there, right? Ray Lewis's last year potentially, right? An offense that again we've talked about next man up with the other team. They've done the same thing. Next man up. Who's just going to come and fill the position for them? So I think they've got a lot to prove though coming into Houston right now with the season they had and the defense that they're bringing with them. I think this is Houston's going to have fun, man.
I honestly just think it's going to be they're going to throw it and chuck it. And you're like, whatever defense gets the most turnovers, because I think turnovers are going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
You're putting a rookie quarterback in a playoff game, first ever, against a really, really good defense, as Caitlin just touched on. They're going to take chances. They're going to blitz. There's going to be chances for takeaways, which also means there's chances for big plays.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have Joe Flacco, who's been playing reckless, and he doesn't care if he plays tomorrow or not. I don't think. Like that's the BS. Like he's made his money. He's done everything he has to do. Everyone, like as we just said, he's played some pretty bad football in the last couple of years. He can go out there and just throw it and either go out the hero or go out a bum. I don't think he cares either way. It's his last hurrah, so he's going to throw it up and chuck it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a chance to take the ball away.
And I don't think like when the schedule came out and like Jacksonville lost and Houston got the division, was there any doubt that this was going to be the 4:30 game on Saturday?
No.
I could have made the schedule for like just from sitting on my couch and realizing that of all the appetizing matchups, like this one isn't going to. This one's not going to break any ratings, I don't think. But
I actually thought the Tampa game was going to be the first one because no one is really giving us anything, which Philly's kind of linked into the playoffs.
yeah, and Jalen Hurts is still like not really throwing, and like I kind of think that that's why the game's on Monday is because they wanted to give them the extra little bit of time.
A couple of days there, some of that Philly respect, yeah. No, I think this game actually may be huge ratings wise. You got an Ohio State quarterback playing against an Ohio team, right? Like this is going to be huge. And then you got Houston, of course. We know Texas is massive when it comes to that, right? So it's going to be a barn burner. I think be fun.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying the game's going to be bad. I'm just saying when we turn the page and we look at Dolphins and Chiefs at Arrowhead,
It was a
kill.
game to miss this
When it's
weekend.
minus
It was the
40
one
out,
that
like
most
come on,
people tried to
Dolphins are going to get hurt here in the first couple of minutes because they never played in cold weather like that.
It seems like Nick Newman might want his franchise to be set back even further by having Jim Harbaugh come in and be the coach instead of Belichick.
Well,
Um,
unfortunately for Nick, he's going to have Bill Belichick. That old man Arthur Blank's been waiting for an old man friend to coach with him.
um, well, as we get it, like Kansas City and Miami, a crazy weather game that's actually going to get played on time because apparently the governor of Kansas City or Missouri doesn't actually care. But this one's going to be really, really cold. The passing game of Miami. Miami is like another team that's kind of limping in here. You don't know who's going to be healthy. Is Jalen Waddle going to be able to play or make a cut on ice? Is Tyreek Hill running on ice a problem for him? I think he's played enough games in that
Yeah,
stadium.
I'm not worried about Tyreek Hill. He's
Yeah,
figured it out.
but can Tua's little left arm get the ball
Yeah,
to him
there's the difference. There's
in the wind chill? I don't know.
We're talking about Tua's arm and Patrick Mahomes' arm.
Yeah,
A little bit of a difference.
yeah. I mean, I think that there's going to be a lot of incompletions in this game, and one because no one's open. Yeah, no one's going to be open for Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think that Tua is going to be able to get the ball to anybody.
Well,
I think Pacheco is going to eat today.
Yeah. I would almost go on a limb and say the best bet that I would have for today is whatever the under is in that game, go ahead and pick it.
whoa!
Yeah.
I have
I think I
never
saw
heard Shane say
41.5,
take
but I
under.
saw this morning on
Yeah.
Network.
Hammer that all the way down. Like even
Well,
on
there
good,
was a video that Omar Kelly put out of the last practice that they had, and Waddle was like limping like crazy, man. Tyreek Hill actually looked not too bad, but Waddle was looking horrible.
these two teams played relatively healthy in Germany on like decent track and like good weather. And I think it was like it was close, right? It was like a 20 21 like 14 or 21 like 20. I know the game was really close, but overall, like those were two healthy teams on good in good weather, great conditions that didn't light each other up because both defenses are okay. I think that the Miami defense is pretty banged up, but Kansas City's strength this year has been running the ball. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball on Christian Wilkins. And when you look at like Rice, put Rice on the corner, you still got Jalen Ramsey playing, right? So just call those two dudes a wash. Who else on Kansas City's making a play? I'm not like this wouldn't surprise me if Miami wins this game. It wouldn't surprise me if Travis Kelsey never plays football again.
I think this is last year regardless.
Yeah, like he doesn't need the money anymore, and I don't think he has any wheels left.
So,
I
so
think
you
it's 2
think
years
him
left.
and Jason surprisingly retire this offseason? Because it's been floated around that this is Jason's last season by quite a few of the beat reporters in Philly.
Well, Jason on that documentary last year was supposed to be his last year. I think it's for how close they got. He wanted
Yeah.
one more go. And Travis Kelsey has 2 years left on his contract. I looked it up earlier this year. And I was trying to figure out if he stays it out or if he just take that hit. Not that he needs the money, but
Yeah.
do you want to go out not being the same guy that you were for years? And everybody's already blaming this because you're in love. So
Yeah, I think that it's just the wear and tear on that guy. Eventually, your age catches up to you. Like, not everyone's Tom Brady. Like, you can't always be ageless. Like that guy played in a crazy. He plays a crazy position, and eventually your legs are gonna give out on you. I don't think that Travis Kelsey takes care of his body the same way Tom Brady did.
yeah, he might eat tomatoes.
Yeah, something tells me they go to different kinds of parties. Just a thought.
He'd still be the number one. Like if they go out and they grab T Higgins this offseason and he's suddenly not the number one there anymore and T is, and they let Rice kind of grow into his own here in a second offseason, like he just I can't be the number one at his age and at his abilities now. That's just what it is. I think there's no problem with him becoming that Antonio Gates type player and having those wide receivers that filled up the Chargers in the last half of his career there, the last bit of his
Well,
career.
like, what's his cap number? I mean, we don't have to dig into the offseason and like make money for these guys, but
I think he's 20 mil.
yeah, if you're looking at 20 million for Travis Kelsey, you can't pay him that and get Tyreek Hill, or sorry, not Tyreek Hill, sorry, you can't get T Higgins, and you can't continue
Where's
to
their
pay
money
Patrick
elsewhere?
Mahomes as the
Their,
top
their,
quarterback.
their, their money elsewhere is all in small positions. Like their offensive line is all young. Their defensive line, besides Chris Jones, is all young. Laverius Sneed is probably the person they have to sign in the secondary, but the rest of the secondary is playing on young contracts too.
Yeah, but if you look at like Tyreek Hill getting shipped out of town because they didn't want to pay him 27 million, like what are you paying T Higgins if it's not that?
He's not getting 27, even in this
Okay,
offseason.
well, what's he getting?
I'd
25?
say he probably gets close to the Kelsey number, maybe even a little bit shy of that.
No, he's going to be in the 20s, like low 20s, probably, right?
I don't know.
Either way, it's like he's not going to take less than Travis Kelce. He's not going to take less than a tight end.
Mhm.
Like his agent won't let him.
Like, there's going to be teams out there that are lined up to pay him $26 million to play for a bad team.
The Martavis Bryant rule.
Yeah, like this isn't. Yeah, this isn't his second or third contract. This is literally like he's coming off of his rookie deal. He needs to like set himself up on this
This
one.
is
Yeah.
money deal, right? So he's going to
Yeah.
take the highest number. Anyways, back to the game though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, overall, I think Miami is limping in, and it's going to be low scoring. Um, if Mostert plays, which it seemed like he was trending towards playing, if he plays and they can run the ball in Kansas City, I think that Miami has like a really good chance, and I would favor Miami in the match. But if it comes down to Tua's arm,
That's a no go for me.
No.
That's a no for me, dog.
Yeah, I mean, Tyreek Hill could have 200 yards receiving in this on 3 catches, but they're all screen passes. So
It's going to be get the ball out quick, and that's
Yeah.
the only way that Miami can play. They can't let these plays develop because they won't have the arm to get it there.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, so to me, I think Miami goes in. McDaniel probably has them with some kind of interesting game plan that no one's seen. I think that they're going to do a lot of that like funny runs that they were doing against Buffalo, where they're kind of misdirecting from jump to hold the linebackers. I I could see that being the upset, but it's kind of hard to count out Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game at Arrowhead.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. The guy's undefeated there, so.
So
I think Sunday we're going to get spoiled from football games.
we were because the Steelers were going to upset the Bills. Now we got to wait till Monday for that. But yeah, I mean Dallas
Okay.
and then pretty exciting matchup for Jared Goff returning or playing at.
Stop. How is this not one of the most exciting matchups? Come on.
You don't think so?
It's going to be.
No, I think
it's
this is the
fun to
most
watch.
exciting. I think that for proximity for us, for the fact that like we're like besides Buffalo, but they're an NFC team, so they really don't affect you and I, Shane, as far as but they've been bad for so long. The
It was-
Lions are due. This is
It
exciting
is
for
the
the.
highest average ticket price of all the playoff games.
That's
And I'm
hilarious.
not talking like a couple dollars.
Yeah.
The cheapest ticket at Ford Field right now was $450 on Thursday. The next closest cheapest ticket was $170.
I think that was Pittsburgh and Buffalo.
The cheapest
Hey,
ticket
what's
was
crazy-
Kansas City, Miami.
Yeah.
Was
If the
$70.
game was flipped and it was in LA, the Detroit fans would have paid less to probably get a trip to LA, get the
Yes.
game, and fill the stands.
Well, what it's going to be is, I mean, there might be a riot in the streets of Detroit because I think that the Rams are going to go in there and like, I'm not saying they're going to blow them out. This isn't going to be like 40-7, but I think by the time it gets to the middle of the third quarter, there's going to be some broken hearts.
You have
And-
not bought into this team forever. It didn't even matter. They keep chugging,
It's
and
more
you
the
just
other way.
never
I'm
want
more
to
bought
buy
into
in.
the Rams.
The Rams are right at the right time.
Yeah, like the Rams can run the ball. They're deep at receiver. I trust Matt Stafford more than I trust Goff, even though they had relatively similar seasons as far as like statistics go.
The Lions had an
But-
all-pro at receiver.
But when you come down to just make decisions as the coach, okay? So Sean McVay is going to always make 100% of the right decision. Dan Campbell won't.
I swear,
Dan
if the man
Campbell is
didn't say he
emotional.
wanted to bite kneecaps in his opening press conference, you'd like
It has
it.
nothing to do with that.
You just think he's a big dummy ape.
You went for 2, which we appreciate, 3 times in a row, even with all those penalties, and essentially took like that's the reason you're in this game. You should be playing Green Bay, which I don't know if that would be better for you, but you should have been the 2 seed because they should have beat Dallas. They had the momentum. They could have kicked the extra point. You go into overtime. You beat Dallas at home, and you keep rolling. Instead,
And then you play a divisional opponent in the playoffs. I think the way it
They
shook
made-
out, it
yeah,
kind of
but
worked out well.
they made this crazy narrative about a penalty that shouldn't have been called when there was 3 other penalties on the play that they just didn't call. So like the play would have been taken back either way, and it's because a coach made an emotional call. Like you're an offensive coach,
Whoa,
Can you
whoa,
make that call?
emotional.
1,000% emotional.
I was saying, but Sean
100%.
McVay, for the first 2 years he was a coach, had a guy had to hold him back from the field because he was too emotional.
Right, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So we're agreeing.
Oh God.
The guy's too emotional when it comes to making decisions.
All I'm saying is, when you're on the 2 yard line, you go for 2.
Right,
When you're on the 7, you don't.
right.
You take the points. One thing that we've all watched football since we were like toddlers almost, if not the day we came
There
out.
we go. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. This guy's got
You
that.
literally, you never take points off the board on your own team. It's that simple.
Yeah. It,
There wasn't enough to gain by going for 2 from that far out.
right. Like again, we appreciate the fact that he's willing to just like put that out there for us and like
Pump the brand 3 times in a row.
but at a certain point, that's just a bad decision and something that all of us, anybody watching, all of us here, we know that that was the dumbest decision that he could have made as the coach. Now, he made it and his team trusted him, but what is stopping him from making another dumb decision like that and going for it on your own 25 and not getting it? Like those are the kind of things that I don't trust the guy. I wouldn't bet on Detroit. I wouldn't bet on the cover of spread because of stuff like that. I don't think that he's going to put them in the best position to win. And yeah, I would say my best bet on that day is that the Rams are money line. I don't even need the spread. Just give me the Rams money line. Boom. I'm sure it's plus money.
Well, I don't want to go hard at pain on this, but
Yeah.
I also say I think I take McVay and his offensive scheme. That's what it comes out to. I don't know if I trust Detroit's defense, and this is nothing to do with offense. I don't know if I trust Detroit's defense to stop the Rams. They have 2 really good receivers, and they have a phenomenal running game. If the Lions can get to Stafford, they have a chance.
Mhm.
But I think that's where the running game comes in, and then that kind of nullifies that pass rush a lot because you want to play action. But I take McVay over Dan Campbell. That's just for the offensive mind. That's it.
Got to score points to win.
I don't know. Aaron Glenn is
But
one of the few defensive coaches that is actually in line for interviews right now. So I respect everything Aaron Glenn has done in Detroit. That defense is incredible. You talked about the pass rush; it's beyond amazing there, and it's not even necessarily the same. You talked about the decisions being made, Shane. My thing is that McVay has help with decisions all over the place, right? He's always had a really good coaching staff, but it's been pillaged for the last 6 years. It's been absolutely pillaged by teams all over the place, stealing offensive coordinators or quarterback coaches and everything all over the place. Dan Campbell's built a team of coaches that were all players that have been in the league or been around the league for many, many years that are all well respected. That offensive coordinator, for example, is going to be one of the highest paid coaches or wants to be the highest paid coach in the NFL anyway. I don't know if he actually gets a shot there. But again,
that's
coming back
another
to the
emotional
defensive
decision.
Sorry?
That's another emotional decision. Like you're literally in the heart of your season. And I know that he didn't come out and say that this week. He said it like weeks ago. But like, yeah, I'm willing to go to another team as long as I'm the highest paid head coach.
I don't even know if it actually came from his mouth or if that was just the rumors that came out of it anyway. But I'm just making comments on it in the sense that like he's built this team that is being pillaged now. He is the McVay where his team like maybe I'm wrong. I didn't think I've heard of anybody out of LA being scouted for a head coaching position or even an offensive coordinator position or anything like that this year. Whereas I'm looking at Detroit, offensive coordinator is one of 2, them in Houston, as being the highest paid potential coaches in the next level. And then you've got
I think you're making my argument for me. I think you're making my argument for me. Like you're saying that they're more stable, so they're more focused, and they're not looking to the next chapter. Yeah, I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna whatever I was gonna bet the money line. I'm gonna double it just because you said all that. I think all Aaron Glenn and with Brian Johnson or Ben Johnson are both going to be coaching other teams next year, and their minds are already there. Yeah. Lions are toast. And we can circle back for the Cowboys. I know Joe's out there. So let's circle back for the Cowboys because I think this one is probably the game that Chad was talking about for like the most excited. I think this one's gonna be high scoring. Indoor, there's gonna be a lot of throwing the ball. The difference here to me is gonna be is Aaron Jones going to lead the game in rushing or is Tony Pollard? And who is their secondary guy running the ball? Because I think AJ Dillon, I'm not sure if he's back in this game, but I know he's missed the last couple with an injury. I don't have any real faith in a second running back for Dallas outside of Deuce Vaughn and the other guy. I can't even pronounce his name. So I'm not even gonna pretend.
This game is on Dak. That's what it comes down to. I don't think anybody's running the football in this game.
Like, is Dan Quinn a good enough coordinator to compete with whatever LaFleur's game plan is gonna be?
He has better athletes and better football players. So when I say yes, I think this Packers team's a couple years away. They overachieved. I think more than anybody ever thought they were going to this year.
Sorry, Josh, I buried your Lions already.
um,
I had your brother.
yeah, like, I just think this Packers team they overachieved. Them getting to the playoffs is already more than what anybody ever would have thought. I think even their own players probably bought into it.
It's the youngest team to ever make the playoffs.
Jordan Love went light years above what anybody thought. We were talking about burying this guy in week 4 or 5. And they've rallied behind him. They made game plans that work for him. I think is it Jalen Reed? Kid from Michigan State?
Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed. He's going to be a star.
Yeah.
Massive threat, huge red zone guy. But I just think Dallas has so many good football players on the defensive side of the ball where these players who are going to be really good and are not that good yet, they're going to get on.
Yeah. And overall, I think that the Packers have. I mean, they've had a good couple of weeks, and they're kind of going to this thing hot. But it's hard to take away from what Dallas is doing because I think Dallas is just as hot. You know, they went in to Washington, and that's a game that everyone calls a trap game, or everyone thinks that's going to be an issue for them, and they end up handling business. I mean, you're supposed to beat the bad teams, but like typically in these situations, you wouldn't beat the bad teams. The Dallas team has been known to just like trip over themselves and have them a little bit of trouble. The only thing that I thought was interesting coming out of all of that was Jerry Jones came out and said, they said, is he going to be your coach? And he said, well, we'll take it game by game. And
Yeah, no, I think it's one of those things where Mike McCarthy has to win this game, where I think he's out of a job. There's way too much talent on that Dallas team not to go any further. They remind me of like that early 2000s Buccaneers teams where they were so good, but they couldn't get over the hump.
yeah,
That if you, and same with Indianapolis, those couple years before Tony Dungy ended up going there, they got to the games, they got to the playoffs, but they couldn't win. And as an owner, especially Jerry Jones, like he's been waiting a long time. He needs one more trophy in his case before he dies.
yeah.
And I think if Mike McCarthy doesn't get the job done, I think he's gone. I don't think it's get to the NFC Championship. It is Super Bowl or nothing, or you will not have a job.
Right, and you know, Joe just said something on here about the 7 seed being flawed, and like I think that just comes with like the expansion. But since 2020, the 7 seed is 0-6. So I mean, this year you're looking Packers, you're looking Steelers. Which one of those teams has a chance to break whatever the curse, or you know, be the first 7 seed to actually win a playoff game?
If it was a nice day in Buffalo,
Yeah.
I would say you have no chance.
Well, and
But I think this weather plays into you guys having a chance. We'll talk about that after.
yeah,
this game, But I don't think the Packers are that team yet.
yeah. And can the Packers upset Dallas at home? Yes, only if the Cowboys revert back to history. But I think that whatever McCarthy's been doing and whatever these coordinators have been doing, Dak Prescott is playing better than he's played, like significantly. And CeeDee Lamb is like, I don't know if we would have called him a top 5 or even a top 10 receiver coming into this year. But like, I think it's easy to say he's the top 5 one now, right? Like outside of Tyreek Hill, he might be the second.
Yeah. And I'll go on like people are running with the last one. I think Dak was probably the best quarterback in the NFL this year. I honestly believe that. I think he should be in the MVP conversation. I know he's not going to get nothing.
Right.
But I think Dak was the best in numbers wise, and he's the quarterback this year.
Yeah, well, Lamar Jackson learned how to play quarterback, so he's the automatic MVP. But I mean, for MVP anyway, I think Tyler Huntley just won Lamar Jackson the MVP last week because of how bad that quarterback was. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you. I think that I had Dak in a couple fantasy leagues and he won them for me. I think that he should have been at least in the consideration for MVP. And if I had to pick between Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson, CMC and I think I would go Dak, CMC, Lamar, and then Purdy. But I mean, it seems like it's a foregone conclusion that the MVP race is going to be done.
Yeah, so we can talk about that closer in our bye week of the NFL. But like,
Yeah,
I think you're right. Lamar, CMC, than everybody else.
yeah,
But I think Dak wins this week, hands down. And if he doesn't, I think McCarthy's gone.
that's interesting. But yeah, I don't disagree with it. It's there's too many good coaches out there, I guess, and if McCarthy, who is your offensive specialist, can't come out and get. I mean, if they score 40 points and lose 42-40, like, is he gone?
Probably.
Okay.
It's Jerry Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Um,
He stuck around with Jason Garrett way too long. I don't think he's going to allow the same thing to happen with Mike McCarthy.
yeah. What is your thought on that, Caleb?
I am not bought on the pack train. They've had a good few weeks. You're right. They've rode some hype, but they played Carolina. First, they lost to the Bucks. That was their last loss. Okay, that was a team that was fighting for their lives too in Tampa Bay, and they lost in that game. Then they played Carolina, Minnesota, who was roundabout quarterbacks all through the season after Kirk Cousins went down, and then finished out against Chicago, who they were playing for what they were playing for. We knew it. We knew what they were playing for, right?
Chicago was the top 5 defense the second half of the year, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not gonna look at their schedule, but I don't think Chicago played had a very tough schedule the second half of the season. Padded some stats there, but I'm not bought into the pack. Like they've Jordan Love has grown. He's made some throws that we all will say that's an NFL level quarterback throw, especially some of those out routes that he's been throwing lately. But I'm still not as a whole. Jair Alexander, is he out? Has that been announced yet?
Has not been announced, I don't believe.
Okay. So like I don't know. I'm no. It's going to be Dallas. It's in Dallas. Like I talked earlier about football in Texas and how tough it is to win down there, how loud it's going to get. So
Yeah, I'm not sure they have anybody to cover CD Lamb, so it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. And I mean, they might have to put 2 guys there. I think they're still going to throw it around, but I kind of feel like everyone's sold on Dallas on this one, and we'll see how that goes.
and as far as the MVP, I'm total CMC. I know, and it's not just recency bias because quarterbacks always get it and I'm angry about it, but it's because that position starts 4.5 yards behind the center. They have more work to do than anybody else, I feel, when they get the ball in their hands. And he's not just asked to run the ball, he's asked to catch the ball 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and do something with it too. Right? Like this is a guy, I love Brock Purdy. He's got similar numbers to Dak Prescott, and that's all thanks to somebody like CMC being on the field for him. George Kittle was absolutely invisible this season for him. Debo Samuel missed some games. Brandon Ayuk didn't miss anything. He was fantastic this year again. But it's just CMC starting behind line of scrimmage, getting all those yards, those scrimmage yards. That plays a factor to me in my mind.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Like they see how it goes. I don't think that the playoffs usually play into the MVP race, but it wouldn't surprise me if if the Cowboys are in the Super Bowl, if maybe Dak's name jumps back up to the top.
If the Ravens get knocked
Be right
out
back.
first, be very curious to see what happens with Lamar. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and that's I think that's a fair way to look at it. So with the rejigging of the schedule, we're looking at a 4:30 kickoff in Buffalo. The weather should be a little bit more under control. It was supposed to be a foot to 3 feet of snow falling.
How is that the range? Like, I want
Right.
to be the weather guy if that's what you're predicting.
Right?
I want to be like 24 inches.
And
Don't be a contractor.
yeah, with crazy wind and whatever. So this game's been moved to a Monday. I didn't even bother looking at the weather report for Monday. I'm assuming it's just going to be better. What does this look like for a team like Buffalo? I think that even as a Steelers fan, I think that it's fair that Buffalo put up a fight to postpone the game rather than move it to a neutral site. Because if you're the 2 seed, you shouldn't be playing in Cleveland or like whatever city they were gonna put it in. I mean, they wouldn't move it to Pittsburgh. That'd be
Yeah.
crazy. But I think your fan base was there. They deserved the home game. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how Josh Allen can modify his play because you don't just want to chuck up the ball when you got guys like Patrick Peterson back there and Minka Fitzpatrick back there. Those are veteran guys that know what you're doing. And if you make some of those mistakes that you were making against Miami, it might make you pay for it. And if Buffalo continues to turn the ball over at the rate that they are, I actually think Pittsburgh has a shot here. I mean, it's a 10
That's your only shot.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, okay.
I'll be honest.
Oh,
If
yeah,
you don't, if you don't get at least 2 turnovers, you're not winning that ball game.
Mhm.
And those 2 turnovers have to produce points. You need 10 points off those 2 turnovers. One has to be a touchdown, whether defensive or offensive, I don't care. And the other has to get to a field goal.
Right.
If you don't flip those for 10 points, I think you guys cover the spread regardless.
Yeah, 10 points is a lot.
That's a lot in the playoff game, especially in that weather. And I think, like, I would take the under in that game all day long. I don't think, like, I honestly believe, I think Josh Allen's leading rusher in that whole game.
Okay.
I guess,
Like over a Naj.
yeah, I think he's gonna, because the difference is Najee is gonna like beat you up over time.
Right.
Josh Allen's runs are gonna come in chunks.
Well, Naj is going to split carries with Warren. Allen might not split
Yeah.
carries with anybody.
He's not giving that, like, that ball's not gonna leave his hands unless it's going to a receiver.
Right, right.
James Cook has played phenomenal the last few weeks. But if Buffalo wants to win this game, number one, Josh Allen can't throw the ball because he's going to turn it over.
Mhm.
And he's got to run. I'm talking like college Michael Vick.
I don't even think James Cook is going to get the ball much. I think like it's either going to be Josh Allen or Leonard Fournette because they had Leonard Fournette and he's been kind of like elevated the last couple of games off their practice squad. But if you can get a 200 and I think he's probably 240, 230.
He did pretty well for us.
That's what
all I'm going to say.
I don't like the idea of him just coming out of the backfield and dumping it off. But I also don't think that Josh Allen has the patience of playing quarterback to do what Tom Brady did with them. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they scheme it up. Yeah, I mean, moving the game definitely going into tomorrow's game thinking that it was going to be like a 10-3. I thought we could win a 10-3 game. If you're looking at like a 27-20 game, I mean,
Not a chance.
we're not the team at 20.
That's what I mean. You have to flip 10 points on turnovers, and it's the only way you have a chance to win.
Yeah,
I think Josh Allen carries the ball 10 to 12 times.
I have a weird feeling that Mason Rudolph's going to get replaced in the game by Pickett too. So, well, I don't. I also wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me if they dressed Trubisky and tried to run him the same way that like Josh Allen's going to be doing some runs because Mason Rudolph can't do that,
No.
and Kenny Pickett can't do that. So they might as well like get their money's worth with Trubisky and try and do some. I don't know, moving him around and trying to get him on the outside to do some runs with it, but. Yeah, like I said, I was very optimistic about the game being tomorrow in crazy weather. Now that it's moved to Monday and I don't know the weather, I don't really know what to think.
This has got it's prime for the title of messed up Monday football. Like it's just going to be a crazy type game where I think that whoever wins, the opposite fan base is just going to say that was a fluke win. Is how it's going to come down to. Like
Well,
if the Steelers win, the Bills will say it was a fluke win. If the Bills win, the Steelers fan will say there was some sort of fluke is going to happen in this game. I feel.
the underdog has won, I think it's 8 of the last 9 or 9 of the last 10 games that happened on a Monday. So that would
That's the
be
Monday, man.
that would be good news for Pittsburgh and good news for Tampa. Yeah. Somehow, some way, the betting public has kind of favored Philly in this game, even though they haven't done anything in the last 6 weeks. I mean, has it been longer than 6 weeks?
They've,
That they've
a
kind of been-
6 week derailing, an AJ Brown tweeting fest that got deleted, the fumbleitis issues that Jalen Hurts has gone through that has been well documented, and the turmoil inside the locker room over the last 3.5 weeks has been pretty rough too. So I don't know what the hell's happened in Philly, man.
AJ Brown's ruled out too.
Yeah, he's done. He's not in for the game, and he deleted all Eagles stuff off his social media. Boys, I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did not.
Yeah.
Does that mean they're going to trade him back to Tennessee?
Yeah, he'll probably go wherever Vrabel goes, buddy. But hey, Sirianni might even make it out of the season. Like this is so wild to say this, but this guy, since he lost his OC, this offense has not been the same, right? Like it has definitely been a different characteristic that's been there. When he's calling plays, it's been absolutely horseshit. Especially when everybody seemed to figure out what they're doing, and the Tommy Tush push isn't really working too well.
Yeah. Well, we got Joe chiming in saying "Cry, Eagles cry," which Yeah. Even going into like, even if Jalen Hurts was completely healthy, which as far as the reports that I've read, he hasn't even thrown at practice yet. AJ Brown's out for the game. Devontae Smith is hurt. You got Swift who can run the ball. You got Jalen Hurts who can run the ball. But like the Bucks have been like pesky and weird all year. And I mean, for financial sake, because I get to sell playoff tickets, I kind of hope the Bucks win. But like even removing all of that, I actually think they're going to win. I think Baker Mayfield wins a playoff game in Tampa, and the Fire Sirianni stuff is already out there, which is hilarious. I don't think that happens, but yeah, they got a lot of rebuilding and reshuffling to do in Philly. And this kind of like it seems like you remember the Chip Kelly era where it was like really cool for 1 year. He didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but it was really exciting, and they pulled in all these guys, and then it was just like one bomb that went off. That kind of seems like what's happening right
What is the
Yeah.
bomb? Is the fact that, and you guys know that I have never been bought into Jalen Hurts as an elite quarterback. He's got some fun numbers when it comes to rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, and mainly those are the 1 yard pushes into the end zone kind of thing, right? But is he the answer here, guys? Like, is this really him, or is it just chugging because they've got an elite number one wide receiver there, a very very good number two. Dallas Goddard's been fantastic, and the best offensive line over the last 5 years.
and a stable of running backs that I mean they the Kenneth Gainwells of the world, the Boston Scotts, guys that were productive for you in the Super Bowl that they're not even using this year. Um, I think it's personnel related. I think they brought in a lot of personalities, like they went and got Bayard from Tennessee, which obviously hurt your feelings.
They lost that Philadelphia mentality.
Yeah, they brought
They
in.
lost that like we believe in Rocky and we throw snowballs at Santa Claus. Like they lost that by bringing in the pieces they didn't draft.
Right. No, I
Like
I agree.
they drafted their teams. They kept homegrown talent in, and that's how they won with grit. And they were assholes, and no one ever believed in them, and that's how they roll with that. But then you brought in people who were stars, and all of a sudden, it's not the same. And I'm gonna go to this and say, like, you brought in fucking DeAndre Swift, and there's a staple of running backs. I honestly believe, I don't deny it all the way through, but every time they get on the 1 yard line, and I know I'm losing money, I ain't playing for you because I'm already looking at my next contract because I'm not going to get paid here. If I need X amount of touchdowns to get my bonus, and you're giving every touchdown to the guy who's already making $50 million, why would I play? Why would I play for you?
Mhm.
I'm playing for me. Like I was listening to the New Heights podcast, and Jason Kelsey came out and said, every time that DeAndre Swift gets tackled the one, like, there's a huddle and they apologize to him. And he full said, you either got to get tackled out the two or the three, or you better score.
That's that's pretty funny, like interesting way to look at it. And like it makes a lot of sense too, because maybe even though the tush push works a lot, and I don't know how many rushing touchdowns Jalen Hurts had this year, but like maybe the players are playing against the coach in that way because everything you're saying. If DeAndre Swift gets some type of incentive bonus for touchdown,
I'm assuming every running back does.
well, yeah, and like I would think that he spread some of that love to the offensive line.
Yeah.
And so you're not just taking it away from one guy, you're taking it away from all eight of the offensive
He had
linemen and
15 this
maybe
year, Shane. 15 this
15
year,
rushing
13
touchdowns.
last year. Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot. That how many did DeAndre Swift have then?
He was my fantasy running back. He didn't have double digits, but he had a good
Okay,
amount.
you're at 15.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
you look at something like that, and like, I get it. You want to just score by any means necessary, but like, I didn't even look at it that way. And
Five. Yeah,
that makes a
5.
lot of sense.
Like, you're taking bread from my family. That's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
And then the other night, you flip it, and you have a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, who's literally playing for his life.
Right.
Again, last week was a horrible example of what I'm trying to say here, but he's played his best, probably the best football of his career.
He's hurt too, and I mean, he gutted through it.
He's a guy like, I'm gonna use the word grit. I'm trying to not use it loosely here. He's a guy with a very limited skill set. For He should never have been the first pick overall. I like him. I've loved him since then, and honestly, I probably would take him first pick overall. You know, I had this conversation the day it happened. His skill set didn't line up with that.
Right.
You had to put the pieces around him and run a system that he could run. The Buccaneers have figured out what that system is. Took us a couple weeks. We rely heavy on Rashad White.
Yeah, I think Baker Mayfield stayed Todd Bowles' job.
Yeah, and I hate Todd Bowles. You guys all know that I hate Todd Bowles. But the run and play action, they started running the football. Even if they're not moving the ball with it,
Mhm.
they're committing to it. Mike Evans has had a resurgence. He's played like a fucking all pro all over again. He's playing in a contract year.
Yeah.
All these guys, they have something to play for. And on defense, we're good enough, is what it comes down to.
Right.
We can still stop the run. And what's this Philly do? They run the football. That's how we're going to win this football game. I don't think they really can throw the football enough to beat us with those two guys being injured.
Right. Yeah.
So I think Tampa Bay has a legit chance. And kind of like you said, I would take Tampa money line on this game. That's even me being a homer.
Yeah.
I just think too many things are stacked up against Philadelphia. And Tampa has nothing to lose.
Yeah. And yeah, it feels like that's the way it's trending. And like, usually when an upset seems too obvious, it just doesn't happen. But trust your gut in the situation. I trust that the Bucks will have at least some kind of a game plan to keep it close. And if you're in a close game with the Eagles late, history seems to be on your side. So uh, overall, I think that we're in for a pretty wild weekend. The way that the NFL structures it, this is the way that they want it. I'm sure that they love the idea of having two playoff games on a Monday when they can force it. This is the kind of thing that they always test, and that's why they love the pandemic here so much because they wanted to see what Tuesday football and Wednesday football would look like. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped up. I think that the Steelers game being Monday will at least give me a little bit of time to breathe tomorrow. So, and I can bury myself in work Monday until kickoff. And yeah, I mean, any final thoughts before we roll out of here, boys?
Nope. I was with Kevin the Sock, and I was wrong.
No, I got nothing, man. Football's been really rough to me the last 2.5 weeks, fellas. So
Hey, but on the plus side, Sark didn't leave Texas.
That's
true.
yeah, and Quinn's coming back, and Arch is coming back, and
I was so nervous for you, man. I just want to say that, I know we rip on you for being a Texas fan all the time, but I was like, if Sark leaves and Arch goes with him, you didn't deserve that. I was so worried about you.
Well, I'm glad that you're there for me, Chad, because I was sitting on a cliff thinking about other things at the time.
Yeah, I mean, Vrabel and Sark leaving in the same week would have been tough, and then losing your quarterback.
I honestly might have just given up football, bro. That might have been it.
Final thoughts. How about them Cowboys? We'll talk to you Monday, Joe. How about that?
Yeah. Let's see if they can hold on and take it. I think that they'll take care of business. I think that there will be some upsets this weekend, so we're looking forward to that. And let's buckle in because about 2.5 hours, we're going to kick this thing off.
Have a couple of those too.
Have a couple Miller Lights because it's always Miller time. And we will see everyone next time.